Hello and welcome back to another episode here at the SteelerFury.com podcast. I am your host, Jeremy Kohlman. You know me as Mrs. Smoking on the message board, joined by our elusive colleague, Korey Karbowsky. Welcome him back from a few weeks of hell and working. You know him as Korey 39 on the boards. Korey, how have you been, buddy?
I've been pretty good. It's good to be back. Longest hiatus I've taken, when we're in scheduling season, football season yet. So I've been on this for 3 years now,
Yeah.
and haven't missed more than, think 1 week ever. So it's nice to be back.
Well, no worries. The nation needed your efforts in this past election. So you must needed your civic duty and all of that. So glad to have you back, though. And boy, we have quite a little bit of a miraculous win to talk about. As you know, Steelers eked out a win against the Washington Commanders and Jaden Daniels. Quite a back and forth game. Quite a few things we can talk about right here. But I will have to say this: I have never seen a return on trade value happen as quickly as we needed it to on Sunday with the additions of Mike Williams and Preston Smith.
Mm.
Preston Smith, unfortunately had to come in because it looks like Alex Highsmith is going to miss multiple weeks now due to pardon me, that was my phone. I always forget to turn this thing off in the mornings. Uh, but he made some good plays. Unfortunately, because Alex Highsmith is going to miss a few weeks due to an ankle injury. We'll probably get a little bit more into that injury later here. But then Mike Williams, one catch, one game-winning touchdown. You gotta love it on a Russell Wilson, bit of a moon ball, as everyone likes to call it these days. So it was nice to see those two being able to come in and make such an impact as quickly as they did.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
the thing with like Mike Williams is like everyone's known for like years that he can play. Now, I've been a little skeptical for the last 2 to 3,
sure.
but like he's had his flashes still, and I mean that's a really clean route he went on. It was nice ball tracking. It was one of those ones where you hope that that's a consistent thing throughout these next couple weeks. But even if it's not, even if it is 1 to 2 catches a game, if it's 1 to 2 catches or it's 20, 30 yards down the field, it's a lot of bang for your buck. I mean, we didn't give up much. So it's, I was skeptical of the move, but I think that this could really pan out if you can replicate that at all.
Yeah, I hear you there too. And another set of hands, that can make plays is it's just a big deal. So, I know Will and I were kind of lamenting, oh, we gave up a fifth round pick and what that future fifth round pick could be last week. But it definitely seems like we already have our return on investment for that with a tough win over a very good Washington Commanders team. And then we were talking about Preston Smith last week too, and for I think it's a conditional seventh or just a seventh anyway. I mean, at first, I took a look at the stats, from his last few years at Green Bay. They were down. His snap playing is down, and I just figured, well, he's slowing down. That's the natural assumption to look at. However, what I did not know is that Green Bay brought in a new defensive coordinator this year, and he did not feel like his talents were best getting used. So I read an article about this or whatever, and he actually requested a trade, not publicly, because he didn't think he was being useful in this new defense. So kind of holding out hopes here that, that because the defense he's coming into is more similar to when he was playing very well. So kind of hoping that that's going to be a diamond in the rough here, that we're getting a veteran who's obviously a very good pass rusher, in his prime. But if he can come in, especially now that Highsmith is out, and give us more than what I was expecting, that'll end up being a trade that really shows off its dividends.
Yep. Yeah, that was like a nothing trade where like we gave up nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Anything we get out of him, like he could do nothing after this game, and the trade's probably, it's all you almost already got your return on investment. I think think it was just that was a good move just because we needed the depth. I mean, Nick Herbig's been he's when's he supposed to be kind of getting back to full force?
So Nick Herbig actually was on the kind of the doorstep, as Mike Tomlin put it, of playing this past game,
Yeah.
but they just wanted to be super cautious. So he's back for this coming up week. So
Yeah,
um,
so
even better.
I think what just having the three guys back means is like with Preston, Herbig, and Watt is that you just don't have to run Watt into the ground, which as we has been somewhat injury prone throughout his career. So that's always something where we've said we need to have a third outside guy. So got kind of lucky that Preston Smith looks capable and should be able to kind of fill that role if he needs to be, if he needs to.
Yeah, it's funny because he made a comment after the game because there was a particular play where he had a tackle for loss. I think it might have been on Jaden Daniels or a Commander's wide receiver. I can't remember who, but he was like, "Yeah, I didn't think I'd have to be chasing people down like that, but I can still do it." And he looked still very much, athletic as the guy that we've seen in the past that can run down and make plays and stuff, even being at the hulking, like 6'6", 270 that he is. So very excited to see him. I see him wearing 91 and I thought, when did Stephon Tuitt come back, because he fills out that jersey a little fuller than some of the other guys who have him, but it was like, oh no, right, that's Preston Smith. But just good to see him out there making plays for our defense, because we're gonna need it.
Well, and I'm sure we'll get to it, but just I hope he's used to it after last game because he's sure gonna have to do it coming up in a couple of these games, especially
Yes,
next.
yes, he will. Yes, he will. And here's a question for you, Korey. I'm glad you're back because I really wanted to ask this because you're a little bit more of an X and O's guy than I am, and I hope you can help me understand why we keep going back to this. Why do we keep going back to an outside toss play for Najee Harris?
Oh, I don't think I'm gonna give any analysis that isn't obvious. There's because it's not working, and because I mean, let's be real here. Najee probably runs a 4.7 at at most, like at his fastest, a 4.7. It, a toss inherently is like hit the edge, beat people to the sideline kind of play. That's not what Najee is. I'm fine. Throw those to Cordarrelle Patterson. Throw them to even Jalen Warren, who has a bit more burst.
Yes.
But stop throwing them to Najee. There's no reason. It's like banging your head against the wall. I'm just assuming maybe we've got some cool play action plays lined up off it that we really want to set up for AFC North Division play that we haven't played a game of yet. But there's no reason because if it's not working over and over and over again, then just stop calling it. It's not like we need it. It's not like we need that play in the playbook for the offense to click. But I have no idea. The fact that we have to have called it at least like 15 times, right?
I mean, at a minimum, every time I see it, I'm like, well, here's a play that might go for 2 yards.
Yeah, you see the quarterback hinge open and start to two hand underhand. And it's like, oh my god. It's like, yeah.
Because the funny thing is, you bring up, due to the other guys, Patterson actually did it late in the game when we needed yards, and he actually, got yards because he's actually quick enough to get out there and do something with it. So I don't know. Oh my gosh, I was just racking my head against the Buffalo Wild Wings table I was at, watching it. It was like, good God, how many freaking times do we have to try this stupid shit?
It's incredible. And you know what? We've done a pretty solid job on offense outside of those.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't get what the. My only guess is we've got some really, really nice play action concepts off it, and that we're going to start seeing them here soon because we really haven't done much off it so far.
Yeah. Do you know, can Najee Harris throw a ball? Because maybe that's what we're setting it up for, too, a halfback pass or something. Because
That would be within the realm of something I could see Arthur Smith doing. I don't
Mhm.
know, but Arthur Smith is known for his super gadgety gimmick plays.
Mhm.
We haven't seen as much of those. In all honesty,
We
we haven't
haven't.
seen them here. So maybe, like I said, maybe we're just saving all that stuff for the AFC North.
Yeah, right. Right. Last thing I kind of want to point out from this past game, special teams. Boy, it came up big again.
Mm-hmm.
It came up big in a few instances, came down in a little bit of an instance. We'll get to that one, honestly. But, Ben Skoranek, has been a very good gunner for this team here when he's been active. It's funny because, I was watching that game and, I think it's Olamides Zacchaeus is the one who like mishandled the punt twice. And I
Mm-hmm.
really didn't understand it because it's not like either were like big booming punts or whatever. He just completely mishandled it. And this is a guy that's been pretty consistent throughout his career and pretty dependable. We're lucky that, or Washington's lucky we didn't get both. The one just happened to bounce out towards the sideline, and then the other one, Skoranek got right on. So big, big change there, obviously, because the offense really hadn't been able to do anything or too much at that certain point. So that was a big thing. The one negative on special teams is like James Pierre. I mean, man, I think all of us across the nation could have caught that ball. I mean, that thing was perfectly there. However, I do say this. We tried that at like our own 15-yard line. I know it's probably built into where it's like if we have an uncovered gunner, you're going to throw that. But man, that ended up really biting us in the butt because, we don't get that. Washington turns around and scores right away in a game where we're up, I think, 7-0. So it puts him right back in the game. And I understand if he catches the ball, he's probably still running and, has a huge play. But I don't know, Korey. Just wanted to get your thoughts on the special teams play and that play in particular. It just felt like there was a lot of risk versus reward there.
Yeah, I'm of the mindset where if you get that opportunity, you have to take it
Mm-hmm.
because part of it is it keeps, I'm sure it wasn't intentional to leave a gunner uncovered,
Mm-hmm.
but it's if you don't keep teams honest, then they're going to send more than you can bring, and that's kind of a problem in the NFL. So like you saw there were a couple of times where they were able to gear it up and almost get some blocks on them normally.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know if it's that bad of a. If you were that close to a big play, I think I'm fine with because James Pierre making one return or miss, it is borderline impossible to tackle someone with like 30 yards of open grass in between two people. I think I would have done it, and I am impressed Tomlin pulled the trigger on it because you know how much you have to like uh, the setup of a fake or something like that to for a guy like him to pull the trigger on it down on the 15. Like that's one of the most conservative coaches in the NFL, even though he's gotten a little more risky these last like 2 weeks than usual.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree with it. I think I would have done it. I think that's one of those opportunities where it's risky, yeah, but it really could have paid off.
Gotcha. And I guess that was just my gut reaction right at that time too, because I was like, oh my God, we just spotted the Commanders all this yardage. They don't have to go anywhere and they're in the red zone already. But I guess one luxury of that play is that it did happen in the first half as well. It's not
Yes,
like it was
yes,
with 2 minutes
and
left in the game or something.
it at least gives you time to recover if it goes south.
Yeah, no, that's true. And it did. We had just enough time because the Jalen Warren fumble in the end zone, or not in the end zone, on the doorstep at like the one or the two. That definitely, I thought that was going to be the score that ended up putting us up. But, that fumble turned things around and actually worked out in our favor, as crazy as that sounds. It drained like a minute and a half off the clock that the Commanders ended up not having at the end of the game. So, but like you said, it's kind of funny how games go sometimes, how the ball uh, falls on the field. So, but any other things you want to touch on from this past game before we move on?
No, I don't think so. I think it's like what Russell Wilson's doing for us. I think that's just a general like what he's doing for us.
Boy, he's bringing hope during the holiday season, man. I didn't think we were going to have that, so I'll
No.
take it. I'll take it. Dress him up in red and start giving us some presents already. I love it. But with that being said, the Steelers finally turn to the AFC North. We have our first game in the division, which is unreal when you think about it. But this is exactly what the NFL wanted by giving the AFC North an in-season HBO special coming up here in about a month or so. They'll be following around all four AFC North teams, which they've never done before on a kind of an in-season special. So one, it'll be kind of nice only because we get to see more of our Steelers other than on Sundays and Saturdays and throughout the week or whatever. But because of that, the Steelers have every single division game here in the next month and a half, which is absolutely nuts. But as Tomlin says, we can only play who's up on the schedule next. So that being said, it is the Baltimore Ravens. They are headed to Pittsburgh. So lots to get into here. Let's kind of get into the injury report first. There's not anything official out there yet, but there were some that I kind of found on Twitter through some verified sources. As far as the Steelers go, we kind of talked about it. There's not going to be Alex Highsmith this week with that ankle injury. It does kind of feel like the consensus is he avoided a more serious injury, but at the same time, I'd be shocked if we don't see him, before a month out. It did look pretty serious on the field. So I got that information from Sam Highsmith, who is Alex's dad. So good to hear there. Nick Herbig will be back. We kind of touched on it. He probably could have played last week, but they ended up being cautious of that. Dante Jackson and Najee Harris are day to day with some non-serious stuff. So other than that, the Steelers look pretty healthy. On the other hand, the Ravens still look like they're going to be without Isaiah Likely, which is very good because that's a guy who could kill this team when we kind of get into the matchups here. Another player that got hurt was Kyle Hamilton. He definitely had a bigger ankle injury. The Ravens don't consider it serious, so just something to watch throughout the week. He did not practice yesterday, so it'll be interesting. I'm sure he's going to try to give it everything he can, to be active and play for this game because it's obviously a big game for both. Steelers remain one game up on the Ravens, I believe, as far as the lead for the division goes. So that would be, if the Ravens were to pull off a win, it would definitely put them back in the race for the number one spot in the division. Other than that, just some nicks and other bruises stuff from the Ravens, so we won't really get into it. But let's get started on some matchups that we should be on the lookout for. Korey, what's kind of the big one that just looms large to you out of the gate here?
I really quick. I'm just scrolling through the future schedule. Have we
Sure.
taken in how brutal the back end of the schedule is? Because it's 6 AFC North games, which is its own thing. The two non-AFC North games are the Eagles, which have like the most maulery, interior O&D line that you can find anywhere. And then it's a game. And not to mention that we have 2 games off of 4 days rest. One of them is the Browns game after this game, and then the other one is the Chiefs game after another Ravens game. I'm sure glad we padded our record a little going into this because that's going to be some tough sledding.
Absolutely.
But, yeah, I didn't realize it was that bad. I knew that it was a tough, AFC North grind, but whew.
Yeah, it's bad when the NFL schedules you the Chiefs, Ravens, and Eagles within 10 days of each other.
Yeah.
So like you said, a little bit of a brutal stretch coming up here. You know, I maybe the Browns aren't as hard as we thought they might be coming into the season with their success last year and their injuries and all that. So maybe that's where we pick up some of those wins. Maybe we can double down on Cleveland this year. But yeah, I mean, and the Bengals are playing red hot too. Honestly, they could have easily won this past week on Thursday Night Football versus the Ravens. But Zach Taylor doesn't know how to call plays apparently. So I was watching that and just kind of dumbfounded sometimes with the
Hmm.
stupidity of coaches. But because he ended up going for two last play of the game essentially to try to or last chance for the Bengals. And it's like, I understand the logic, but I would have kicked the field goal. I would have given my team another chance or whatever. It's like, you're on the road. I understand you want to be aggressive and you want to try to steal a win, but it's like both teams have been playing really good offense. So I don't know. I would have taken my chance to maybe get that coin flip in overtime. Especially with how Justin Tucker has kicked this year. He has not been, as good as previous years. We've all seen it, kickers start to lose their leg at some point. You've mentioned that before as a former long snapper and somebody
Yep.
that works very well with that. At some point, legs do start to give out. And it's not that Tucker's not still capable. He is, but his consistency has been way down. So it won't surprise me if, this might be his last year or two coming down the stretch here. But let's dive into the game some more here.
Yeah, it's so I mean, we could point out basically the whole roster,
We could.
if we want to. But the one thing that I'm gonna be looking at, Cortland or not Cortland, Cam Sutton. Cam Sutton was getting a lot more run this past weekend,
Was.
and that would not surprise me if that stayed the case because tell you what, trying to guard Zay Flowers out of the slot, Mark Andrews when he bumps out there in the slot, Deontay Johnson, who's going to be out there in the slot. And all three of those dudes can beat you in different ways. But then you got to go and you got to fit the run versus Derrick Henry. Wait, when Lamar Jackson breaks pocket, now you got to come up and tackle him too. You're pretty stressed against this Ravens team as a half in the box, half out of the box kind of player because of those route runners and Derrick Henry. So whoever's playing in the slot for us is going to have their hands full.
Yeah, I was definitely going to say it. Zay Flowers is a joystick, human joystick when it comes to how quick and agile he is. You did mention another player there that Mike Tomlin had a very fun quote about Deontay Johnson. Yes, that Deontay Johnson, former Steeler, who was traded to the Carolina Panthers, who thought apparently he's so not worth it that we could get rid of him immediately, and they send him to the Ravens. However, when Mike Tomlin was asked about facing Deontay Johnson, his exact quote was, "They've got more significant pieces with larger roles to worry about." Burn. It's like I posted that in our little group chat for those of you listening. I thought that was the most entertaining quote I've heard from Tomlin in a bit.
Well, what's funny is Tomlin usually makes great efforts to not step on anyone's toes and not to fire anyone up. This one, he knew what he was doing. He knew exactly what he was saying. So hopefully, it doesn't bite us in the ass. But
Yeah, right. but yeah, another one we kind of mentioned it here already, but we have got to be ready to tackle Derrick Henry. He is not a back that you get to miss a tackle on and come back and get him. He's one of these guys where if you don't get him down, he's gone. So Derrick Henry, I understand Lamar has been much better as a passer this year. Rashad Bateman's even, shown up a bit more this year to help out and all, but starts with Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. We have got to be ready to tackle those guys. So nope. Patrick Queen, I'm looking at you, man. No missed tackles this week. Peyton Wilson, Landon Roberts, safeties. Do not miss. because if you do, we will end up regretting it.
Well, this is a revenge game for Patrick Queen. So
Ooh,
he
true.
seems like one of those guys who I could see him being a riser in these kinds of situations. I haven't been the biggest fan of his play for what we're paying him
Mm-hmm.
throughout the year, but I think he's the kind of character. He plays with his heart on his sleeve. I think he might be a prime time riser in this game.
Yeah, I definitely hope so.
No,
Definitely
I do,
hope so.
because if he's not playing well, we're in trouble.
Yeah, that's very true. Some other matchups that we kind of brought up earlier, but I feel like our edge rushers should have a decent day, being able to set the edge and getting after the passer. Well, one thing this Ravens team is not great at is pass protection. Ronnie Stanley, he's solid. Don't get me wrong, and I've always been very high on him, but he is not quite the player that he used to be. He's good. Don't get me wrong, but I think Preston Smith could give him some issues, just with his combination of size and ability, his athleticism. Just another pros pro. So just another guy to watch out for there. Not to mention if Nick Herbig is there, he is known for just being so explosive out of his stance. So Ronnie Stanley better be ready for that. And then, for a guy who hasn't really been able to show up much on the stat sheet as much these past 2 weeks, and TJ Watt, whoever is at right tackle, whether it's Rosengarten, who we both liked in the pre-draft process, but boy, he's got a long way to go, to really be a future starting right tackle or any tackle at this point. He's been decent in the ground game, but he has been a liability in pass protection. So if the Ravens choose not to, chip, Rosengarten could be in for a long day. And that's just putting it nicely. Any other matchups, Korey, you think we should be on the lookout for this game?
Hamilton, but he's got the injury tag. We
Yeah.
we know he's one of the best defensive backs in the league.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the thing that catches my eye is you look at their depth chart, and you've got Odafe Owa, you've got Roquan Smith, you've got Trenton Simpson. Like, man, that is a athletic group of three guys. Like, those guys are, especially Trenton Simpson and Owe. Those are two of the more athletic testing linebackers ever. So, not sure how many Najee Harris toss sweeps we're gonna plan on calling, but not sure if that's really this is a group you want to get downhill on. I think it's which is what we're gonna do. We know we played this Ravens team so many times. We know what we're gonna do is we're gonna look to keep Lamar in check. We're gonna try and eat the clock. We're gonna run the ball. Couple shot plays here and there, but we know what we're going to attempt against them. It's just seeing if we can continue the success we've had, because we have been pretty successful against the Ravens here in the past couple of years.
Yeah, we really have. I think in the last 8 games against Lamar, we're like 6-2 or something like that, or 7-1. So it's like, well, we know how to play this team, but it just feels like this year Lamar has upped his passing game quite a
Yep.
bit. I think I remember seeing some stat, from this past Thursday night game, is when they let Lamar throw 30 times or less, that they're like damn near unbeatable. But when he throws more than 30 times, that record plummets to a very more average thing. So, it sounds like, to me, the recipe of success is let Lamar throw it, because if he throws it too much, that's that works out more in the other team's favor. So maybe try to get them as one dimensional as possible again this week. But I have my doubts that this Raven team looks very, very good. Like they could be, that team to actually knock off Kansas City, because God, let's face it, Kansas City finds ways to win. I mean, just ludicrous ways to win. They're still undefeated, one on a blocked field goal with time expiring this past week against the Broncos. But it feels like they're a team that's going to challenge the Bills the top teams in the AFC. So it'll just be very interesting to see, how that goes. So, uh, but let's kick it around the league. There are some other matchups around the league that are in force this week. Let's talk about a team that we actually just played. Washington Commanders go to Philadelphia in a very much anticipated game for first place for the NFC East. Phillies at home. They are favored by 3.5. What are your thoughts on this one, Korey?
Oh, this is a this is a real good game. I think I would have taken the Commanders without thinking too much about it if they were at home. But
Mm-hmm.
as I can say, as someone who is living in Philly at the moment, this
Oh,
is a
okay.
this real passionate fan base. You can see why the home stadium is talked about a lot in Philadelphia. That is one of those ones where it's kind of like Pittsburgh, where there's a notable advantage at those home games. And I don't know, it's Eagles at home. I think these teams are super close on paper. I like the Commanders a little more, I think, but home field on a Thursday, we all know we've brought it up a million times on this show. There's a long history of the home team performing a lot better on those Thursday night games. So I'm going to go with the Eagles for really that. But have they already played this year?
I don't believe so.
If they haven't played, which I don't think they have, then that's definitely one where I'm probably taking the Commanders. Yeah, they play again on the 22nd. So yeah, I'll probably take the Commanders that week. But this week, going with the home team on Thursday. It should be a fun game though.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny since you're in Philadelphia. Wonder if you've heard this rumor at all. Um, that apparently Jalen Hurts is dealing with a decent ankle injury, and that Kenny Pickett might actually make his debut this week as a
I,
starter for Charlie.
I don't have any insider information on that, but I have heard that. So I've heard the rumor floating around as well.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. So my pick is contingent upon that, of course. But we're going to go under the assumption that Jalen Hurts is going to gut out any type of ankle injury because it's obviously a big division game for them. But I like Philly too. I think Washington's very good, but I think teams have started to kind of figure out Washington a little bit more. The bright shining star in Jaden Daniels is still shining. Don't get me wrong, but he's not shining quite as bright. It does feel like he's coming a little bit more back down to earth now. He's playing more better opponents and everything. So I like the Eagles here too. It feels like the Eagles are just picking it up at the right time of the season. They're healthy too. Lane Johnson has been there past few weeks, which has made a huge difference. So I like the Eagles here. Next, let's go to two other AFC big time contenders in a highly anticipated rematch every single year. It seems like the Chiefs are headed to Buffalo. Buffalo's at home. They're favored by 2.5 points. They'll start out here. I think Buffalo wins this one. The Chiefs' magic seems to be working all the time. Don't get me wrong. But boy, Denver flat out outplayed them this past week. And maybe that lights a fire under the Chiefs to kind of pick up their game a little bit. But I like Buffalo here. They'd probably get Amari Cooper back this week. But it just feels like the Chiefs have to lose at some point. The fact that they're 9-0 and they haven't played their best football, at some point the magic's got to run out. So that's kind of my reason for liking Buffalo here. You're playing against Josh Allen. You're playing against a very good team, one that can put up points when they want to. Kind of very much unlike Denver this past week, or else they would have probably won that game a lot more convincingly. So I like Buffalo here to win and cover. What do you think?
Yeah, it feels like the feels a lot like the 2020 Steelers season in my eyes, at least, where a lot of games where you probably played down to opponents, got lucky. They're still good, don't get me wrong, but from what I saw last week, I'll probably pick the Chiefs to lose every time I can until they actually do, because I'm just they're too. Like they have to lose soon. They just have not been playing that good of football. So I'm taking the Bills. Same thought process as you. If
Okay.
it's week, then I'm picking them next week because they've just too lucky, too you know. Now we're in trouble if they figure it out and turn it on again, and then all of a sudden just hit another gear. But I just I think they're due for a loss, and so I'm with you. I'm taking the Bills. They're a good team.
Yeah, one interesting little storyline to watch there is the availability of Dalton Kincaid. He left this past week's game with injury. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but just if there is one more less pass catcher, Buffalo gets a little bit more predictable. Chiefs defense is very good still. They play hard, they make plays. So, but yeah, we're both on the same page there with Buffalo. Uh, let's take it out to another divisional matchup. Seattle Seahawks are traveling to the San Francisco 49ers, who debuted Christian McCaffrey this past week, but didn't exactly have the big day I think a lot of people were hoping you would. Korey, what are your thoughts on this one? San Fran's favored by 6.5.
Ooh. Yeah, 6.5 is that's steep, but the Seahawks have just been kind of off this whole year. I feel it's laughing because Shane Waldron was let go of, and I'm laughing at people saying that Seattle should bring him back. I don't think he's very good in general. I was kind of supportive of hiring him, but I also, for the most part, wanted almost anyone but Matt Canada.
Yeah, I mean, have you watched Chicago this year?
Oh yeah, it's that's a nightmare over there.
Woo.
That's I don't think a situation could have been handled any worse.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's the Seahawks are a weird team where I think that they could play this really tight, but I just can't pick against San Fran with McCaffrey in a division game where Seattle doesn't look that good. So I'm going Seahawks to cover, but San Francisco to win.
Yeah, that's probably what I'm going to go with. And honestly, a lot of it isn't even really because of offense or defense, it's special teams. Jake Moody was lucky that he hit a game winner this past week. He missed 3 field goals in regulation against, I can't remember who San Fran was playing off the top of my head, but it felt like that game could have been way out of hand for a lot of other reasons, but ended up hitting the game winner for them to squeak out a win. Kind of with you. Seattle without DK Metcalf is a different animal. Even
Mhm.
though Jackson Smith and Jigba had a coming out party, I don't think it was this past week, but maybe 2 weeks ago. The type of performance that have kind of been expecting out of the former first round wide receiver out of Ohio State, but I like San Fran here too. I just think they're the better team. They're the more consistent team. A healthy Christian McCaffrey does wonders for that offense. So I like San Fran here too, but not to cover. And it's because of the special teams angle. Until Jake Moody kind of gets back on the more consistent basis, you never know. A field goal could mean a big difference in all that. So take it out to one more game before we get to our 5-star matchup of the week. The Atlanta Falcons are headed to our aforementioned Denver Broncos. Broncos are at home, favored by 2.5. I don't know what it is with Atlanta, but they are a very hot and cold team. Ever since they kind of exploded on that one Thursday night game, they are very iffy on whether the offense shows up or not. And Denver's been playing really good ball here recently. Their defense has really turned it up a notch. Bo Nix and their offense has also shown some life in some games. So kind of have to go with Denver just because it feels like they're the more consistent team right now. Denver's sitting at 5-5, Atlanta 6-4. Just kind of feels like the early season magic has worn off of the Falcons a little bit. Everyone was on the Kirk Cousins hype train and the new offense right off that like 54-point performance or 50-point performance, whatever it was. But since then, they've been very up and down. So I like Denver here. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think I like the makeup of the Falcons a little more on paper,
Mhm.
but especially with Denver coming off that Chiefs loss, I feel like that's a game where you're like, oh, like that's a confidence builder. Like that's a game where you come out and the next game you're really playing with a chip on your shoulder. So I think because of that, I'm always keep an eye on those, like how you lost your last game. I think they're going to come out trying to prove that, like, because I mean they're 5-5, they're still in the thick of it. They can,
Mhm.
make a playoff push if they really tighten up, and so I think they've got a lot mentally to play for right now. And the Falcons, plus they're on the road. I think I'm just taking the Broncos straight up here. I think even though I like the Falcons roster a little better, I think they've just got a little more stuff to play for.
Gotcha, gotcha. Well, Corey, I didn't anticipate on us siding the same way in all four of those games, but
No,
nicely done.
the Eagles one, I think.
No,
Or,
no, we both liked Philly there.
yeah, yeah.
But anyway, no big deal. Normally things don't.
That means we might go 0 for 4.
Well, let's maybe disagree on this last one, so for good luck, but who knows? But as you all know, Baltimore Ravens are headed to Pittsburgh for the Steelers' first matchup in the highly touted AFC North rivalry. Baltimore is favored by 3 coming into Pittsburgh. Corey, I'll let you start off on this one.
Okay. Well, I know Will's here. I know Will's probably picking a Steelers loss. I'm picking a Steelers win
Ooh, right.
until I see Lamar really explode against us and show that he's figured out what Mike Tomlin does to him defensively. Plus, we've got a better offense than we've had the last couple times we've played them, and we've still pulled it out these last few times. I'm just taking the Steelers on this one. I think the Ravens are a better team. As you know, I think they're a little more talented. I think in general they're better coached, but we'll say if there's one thing Tomlin knows how to do, it's play AFC North football. And so that'll really be tested this year with this late stretch. But I think we're gonna get this one. I think it's gonna be close, of course. It's gonna be probably a 1 point game, just knowing how we match up with each other. But I'm gonna go 20. Can't pick the same score as last week. It's 28-27. So I'll go 24-23
Okay.
Steelers.
All right. Boy, I just don't know. I'm
Mhm.
worried about our defense. I am. That there are times where our run fits this year have not been good. And if there was ever a team where our run fits are paramount to our success against an opponent, it's this week when it comes to Derrick Henry. Even though I will say this, if you get Derrick Henry to guess in the backfield, that usually is the recipe for success there.
Yes.
When he gets on his gallop, as King Henry often likes to do, that's when he is a big issue. So we're really gonna have to play well across the board. Our defensive line has just gotta maintain gap integrity. They've got to beat the guy in front of them. This is a week where Keanu Benton and Cam Hayward, like this is where you guys earn your money. Larry Ogunjobi, when he's in the game, if they can create some early havoc in the backfield, I do like our chances because if they don't get the running game going, that's where I do think we will have more of a chance to win if we can force them to be one dimensional. Um, I just don't know if we can. Because there have been some times this year where teams have run the ball on us. And if there was ever a time that a team was going to try to run the ball on us, it would be this week.
Mm-hmm.
You do have to watch out for Lamar Jackson. He's the slipperiest quarterback in the NFL, and I don't even think that's anywhere close to an understatement. He is so hard to get on the ground, just let alone stay with. So, our edge rushers, while I think they are very good, they have to play the contain game this week, and that's that has not been the MO of our pass rushers. They are hair on their fire or, hair on fire type of pass rushers where it's like they just want to get upfield and try to go after them. And it's like, if there's ever a week to play kind of patty cake at the line of scrimmage, just to keep them in the pocket, it would be this week. Get your hands up. That is an area we've had success with Lamar in the past, where when we keep him in the pocket and we get our hands up when he's about to throw. TJ Watt has been very good at that in his career. Cam Hayward to a degree. So it's like that'd be one big thing I'd tell our guys this week. Definitely pass rush, but get your hands up because and then don't lose contain. He is unreal when he gets outside the pocket. There was a play this past week against Cincinnati where I thought, oh, this is going to end up being a throwaway. No, it ended up being a run. I think it ended up going for a touchdown or all the way to the 1 yard line. He just evaded everyone, got out of the pocket, toe tipped on the sideline or whatever, and found a way to make it happen. So keep him in the pocket. Do not let him extend plays. Defenses are not designed to cover players for 12 seconds. It's just not. So don't let him do it. So that would be a big thing for me as far as strategy this week. Run fits and then keep Lamar in the pocket. Their receiving weapons outside of Zay Flowers and Mark Andrews don't scare the total bejeebus out of me. Rashad Bateman has shown up this year, but he's more been the guy of opportunity this year rather than the guy that's like beating people or whatever. The ball has just found him when it's needed to. But I'm a little worried about all the Steelers defense being able to do all of that this week, even though we are getting Nick Herbig back. Like you said, Cam Sutton is kind of one of the things. So right now, and I know the Ravens defense is not as good as they have been in the past. I just feel like it's a lot for Pittsburgh to do on defense. So I like Baltimore to win here. I hate to say it, but until I see a team really being able to shut down what feels like the new version of Lamar Jackson and company, I rarely pick against the Ravens. And even if it's my Steelers, I just it's a lot to ask for us to keep up offensively, which we have done better with Russell Wilson. I will not say otherwise. He has been much better. But I'm going to go with the Ravens. Just feels like they are on a train that is very hard to stop. So, but hopefully I'm wrong, and hopefully you're right. Because if the Steelers were to find a way to win this game, that would give them not a huge lead, but it would give them a big step up as we go into division play, especially with Cleveland not looking that great coming down the stretch here, having to rely on Jameis Winston. They're quite a banged up unit. The Bengals, even though I would not want to play the Bengals offense right now, they've been playing otherworldly at times, even though their defense is not that great. So in a year where I feel like the Steelers are going to have to really score a lot of points to keep up in the North, which is usually not the case. Usually it's all about playing defense and running the ball and stuff. I just want to see it a little bit more from Pittsburgh's offense. We did do better against the Commanders, but our 2 big points out totals were against teams that were not that great in the Raiders and the Jets. Let's face it. So until then, I like the Ravens. So unfortunately, but all right. Well, thank you all for joining us for another episode here. Oh, I didn't do a score. I'm going to go 27-20. I feel like it's going to be one of those games where like a field goal isn't going to cut it. So even though, I just got off that big tirade about how Justin Tucker isn't the same kicker as he used to be. So I think 27-20. Yeah.
He just has to make 2 to get there. So it's not, it's not that crazy.
Right. Sure. But yeah, so I like 27-20. But thank you all for joining us here at another episode of the Steeler Fairy podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Kohlman. You know me as Smith is Smoking on the Message Boards, joined by Korey Karbowsky. We're glad to have him back. You know, it's Korey 39. So hopefully, you know, maybe the magic of Pittsburgh really plays into this game. Maybe we can get Baltimore out of their offensive rhythm with a big raucous home crowd here. So we will see where that takes us. And here we go, Steelers.